The debate over Maori water rights is coming to a head with talk of taking the fight against asset sales all the way to the Court of Appeal. So how will the government get itself out of this one? Joining me now is our political editor, Corin Dan. Good morning, Corin.
Morning, Tony.
Bit of a bold line, would you say, from the government this week? I interviewed the Prime Minister on Monday, I think it was, and he said that they could ignore what the tribunal says if they choose to.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I mean, technically, he was just stating the obvious, the facts, which is true. They can legally ignore the treaty, the Waitangi Tribunal. It was perhaps the way he said it, the tone, that it was perhaps could have been seen as a bit of a signal on a couple of fronts. One, that he has to look confident that this asset sales program is going to get through. The other, perhaps appealing to New Zealanders who may be nervous about this debate about whether Maori own the water. But nonetheless, whatever his intentions were, the Maori Party is furious about it.
Yeah, we saw Peter Sharples last night. Do you expect there will be more on this from the opposition parties, sort of cashing in, I guess, because we're even talking now what this will mean for race relations?
Yes, I think they all need to be careful and take a few deep breaths and you know, pause here, because these things have a habit of spiralling out of control and can get quite emotional when you start talking about things like who owns water. I'm sure Labour will look to get in there and try and leverage some, I guess, tension between the Maori Party and National. That'll be in their interest, but they want to be careful. Remember, Labour too don't believe that Maori own the water, or don't believe anybody owns water. So in some ways they're in the same side as National on the bigger issue. But the Maori Party and National are going to have to sit down and talk this through. The Maori Party feel that the process has been belittled, and this is the key. Maori were very upset about the foreshore and seabed because they had a legal right taken away from them. They don't like the idea that in some way the process, a long-running established process like the Waitangi Tribunal, is being belittled in any way. So that is what they're really upset about. There's going to be a bit of repair work that needs to be done.
And of course the process is key for the Prime Minister because he wants the asset sales to go smoothly. How does he ensure that from now on in, given the revelations of the last few days?
Well, they have prepared for legal action. In fact, I would say they are expecting this to go from the Waitangi Tribunal will come back. They're going to, Lord knows how they're going to deal with it then, but they will probably, if it was, for example, to say that yes, Maori have some stake in ownership of water, the government won't be able to accept that. They've already said that, but they will then expect a court action. Now, they believe they will be able to show to the court that they have actually dealt with this issue through other channels, and they've talked to Maori iwi leaders groups. They are trying to resolve rights issues to do with water with Maori in separate channels, and they hope that the court will see that and believe that the government's acting in good faith and therefore not allow the asset sales to be blocked.
Do you think this idea of compensation, if it does hold up, that there is a claim, do you think that will be entertained by the government from here on in?
In what sense? Do you mean compensation for Maori?
Yes.
I think that there are going to be some long-standing treaty claims around water rights and usage which will have to be addressed for Maori. And in particular, you can look at iwi such as Tuwharetoa, which is in the central North Island, who own, for example, the lake bed of Lake Taupo. Now, they have a claim, essentially, or argue that because they own the lake bed, they're essentially storing the water that goes through a lot of Mighty River Power's dams. Therefore, they should be entitled to some commercial benefit from that. They were happy to see that money go to the state when it was all state-owned, but if some private people own part of that company, they feel they should have some of that. Those types of claims could, I think, have more legs to stand on, and the government will look to address those in a longer-term frame, but not through this asset sales process.
Political editor Corin Dan, thank you so much for joining us this